So here's a look first at the top 5 developments on the Modi Cabinet Reshuffle today evening. India Today has learnt that 43 ministers will take oath today at 6 p.m. as part of the Modi Cabinet. Who could be the part of that? 4 former chief ministers, 18 former state ministers are likely to be a part of the cabinet. Also, several cabinet ministers have been axed by the government. 6 sitting ministers have been removed, including the Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal, Sadananda Gowda, Debashree Chowdhury, Santosh Gangwar have been dropped for now. Who could be representing the women? 11 women leaders are expected to be there today in Team Modi. The focus has been on diversity in the cabinet, as adequate representation of both genders is also being ensured, with regard to also the inclusion of OBC and other minority community leaders. Importantly, young blood is going to be infused in this cabinet. Sources are telling India Today TV that 14 cabinet ministers will be below the age of 50. Several young leaders like Jyotiraditya Scindia, Shantanu Thakur met with the Prime Minister at his residence already. And what about the ones who will be elevated? Top performing ministers will likely be rewarded as well. Sources have told us that ministers like Kishan Reddy, Hardeep Singh Puri, R.K. Singh could now get bigger and more responsibilities. So India Today has now obtained exclusive inside information about the new look of Team Modi. Sources have said that a total of 43 ministers will be taking oath today. 4 will be former chief ministers, 18 former state ministers, 39 former MLAs, 23 members of parliament who could have possibly done more than 3 house terms. There will be a thrust on women representation, also of youth and qualified professionals for administrative qualities in the new cabinet. Sources say that there will be 11 women ministers, 13 lawyers, 6 doctors, 5 engineers and 7 former civil servants. The new cabinet will also have, according to our sources, 12 ministers from the Dalit community, each from a different caste group. 2 will be from the scheduled caste ministers, also will be given a cabinet rank. There could be other backward caste ministers, which could extend up to even 27 in numbers, and also from 19 backward caste communities, including Yadavs, Kurmi, Jat, Darji, Koli and Wokhlegas. Now, there will be 8 tribal ministers from 7 different scheduled tribe groups that are likely to be a part of this Cabinet Rejig, focusing on also on diversity and representation. Paulumi Saha is on the ground at 7 LKM, right outside Prime Minister Modi's residence. Rahul Srivastav, our National Affairs Editor, for all the perspective. Paulumi, over to you first. You've seen some of these faces leave. Has anyone said anything? What are you picking up on the latest information? Over to you now, Paulumi.
Portfolio. Also Mansukh Mandavia, he was also present there. So almost 7.
No, they are not going to speak, Pooja, before the swearing in is done, and even then they've been asked to, of course, refrain from interacting much with the media. The Prime Minister, of course, likes for his ministers to keep a very low profile and interact with the media only when necessary, when to communicate about the policies and programs of the government. So he would like the new ministers to get down to business as soon as possible, because a lot of them are just fresh blood. They've never been in administration. Yes, some who have been state ministers have held some positions, administrative positions, but there are some who are completely new to the job, to administration in itself. So they will have a lot of learning to do, especially with the fact that the Parliament session, the monsoon session of Parliament, begins on the 19th of July, and the opposition is likely to corner the government on a whole host of issues, including the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, its fallout, its economic fallout, the ongoing farmers' protests. These are some of the issues that the opposition is going to corner the government with, and hence all of these ministers will have to be ready to, of course, take on those questions head on. So it is unlikely that they're going to speak, but yes, a lot of new faces that we've seen who are going to be inducted into the Union Council of Ministers, including Bhagwat Karad, Bharti Pawar from Maharashtra, for instance, Kapil Patil from Maharashtra as well. Narayan Rane, of course, is an experienced hand. He's been the Chief Minister of the state of Maharashtra. So clearly administration comes quite easily to him. Then there are others like from the state of West Bengal, Shantanu Thakur, Nishit Pramanik. From Karnataka, it is going to be Bhagwant Kulva, also Shobha Karanlaje, Rajiv Chandra Shekhar, A. Narayan Swami, who are being brought in from the state of Karnataka. UP has new faces as well. Meenakshi Lekhi being brought into government for the first time as well. So it's going to be interesting how these young, fresh faces pan out over the course of...
And how many really have their hopes high right now and will be, of course, waiting for an official announcement as well. For the benefit of our viewers, I want to now bring to you what possibly is expected as different representative groups there in today Cabinet Rejig. Let me now first take you through what is expected to be the shape of the Modi cabinet. There could be 43 ministers to take oath in total, which will be both new and old. There will be 4 former chief ministers. Also added to that, there will be about 18 former state ministers and with, of course, political experience. 39 former members of the Legislative Assembly also, and there will be members of Parliament, about 23, who have more than 3 house terms. So clearly the ones of 43 will be new and old, but there will be political expertise that will be on focus. Now, let me take you through the different representation, the diversity that is expected in the new Modi cabinet. 11 women ministers are likely to be included into the cabinet today. 2 women with cabinet rank, which is, of course, senior positions that they will be given. Wonder what ministries would that be? 13 lawyers. And this is, of course, remember, there are going to be diversification of responsibilities. There are going to be 6 doctors, the medical experience, and then would be added to respective ministries. 5 engineers, 7 former civil servants also will be included. Average age of cabinet, we are being told, is now 58. There is going to be a large number below 50, which means representing youth. 14 ministers will be below the age of 50, and that primarily to focus and show that they are going to focus on different statistics of age and not just political experience, but also fresh blood. Now, the caste and religion factor. 5 minorities, which means 1 from the Muslim community, 1 from the Sikh community, 2 Buddhists and 1 Christians are going to be included into the cabinet. All the inside track details of this diversification. 27 from the other backward caste groups. Ministers will include 5 of cabinet rank. Again, senior positions. 8 tribals, 3 again of the cabinet rank. There are also going to be representations from the Dalit community. About 12 ministers are likely to be announced and 2 again this time of cabinet rank. And as I said, technocrats also will be included. Former civil servants, doctors, engineers are going to be included to be added into the administrative governance so that it appears to be a cabinet and a government that is not only representing diversity but also reaching out to as many issues and public as much. Rahul Srivastava, our national affairs editor, is now joining me. Rahul, of course, it appears to be a carefully crafted rejig, but having known this government, and specifically because you've covered it for so long, there's going to be election focus. There's going to be much more than just diversity. The government must have a strategy in mind for the reason it is bringing in this diversity while some states are going to elections. Rahul.
Pooja, yes. One point which I wanted to say that the inductions, the list which you're reading out, the inductions is a different picture. This, what you read out, is a broad picture of the Council of Ministers, that eventually 11 women are going to be there, finally 27 OBC are going to be there, and so on. What you asked me is a very critical question which has been plaguing the NDA government for the last 2 years now. The problem for this government is that despite being a very big majority government, which is expected to push economic and administrative reform agendas aggressively and win elections, somewhere the government has found that it has not been able to push the reform process. Say, for example, the farm bills which were created, the government said they were good. There are a lot of experts who say they are good, but eventually, because of opposition, so much of opposition for farmers, that the government went back, retreated a bit, and through the Supreme Court, eventually the laws are in suspended animation. The labor laws, touted as one of the biggest relief for investment and industrialization in the country, they are in the cold storage. sale of Air India is waiting. The lot of economic and administrative agendas of this government get impacted by its political agenda. Say, for example, if oil prices are regulated by the market, then the government does not need to control it. So during election, the government puts a cap on it. Otherwise, they are over 100 rupees today. Now, there are a lot of tweakings which happen politically and impact economics and administration of this government. The government's very clear message is this time that it wants to actually improve administration. So young blood is being brought in. More professionals are brought in. Say, for example, somebody like Rajiv Chandrasekhar,
yes,
2-3 years ago, it was difficult to imagine that the BJP will bring somebody who is not from the BJP fold to be brought in. But now he's coming in. He, along with 27 OBC ministers in the council, is a signal of administrative fix as well as a political fix.
Rahul Srivastava, Polumi Saha, please stay on with me because this is definitely becoming very interesting. The manner in which there's also looking ahead, of course, at 2024 elections and state elections that are upcoming. It is going to be an awaited reshuffle today at about 6 p.m. We are being told 43 ministers likely to take oath, old and new. Ministerial probables will include Narendra Rane, Jyotiraditya Scindia, Sarbanand Sonowal, Anupriya Patel, Meenakshi Lekhi among some. Because these names have already met the Prime Minister today morning. Apart from them, senior ministers Rajnath Singh, Home Minister Amit Shah were also already present at Prime Minister's residence at 7 LKM. India Today is consistently trying to bring you the inside track of what can be expected. There will be, of course, eyes on Anurag Thakur, Parshottam, Rupala and Kishan Reddy, who may just be elevated to the MOS status from the MOS rank to the cabinet status as well. Meanwhile, Union Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal, Sadananda Debashree Chowdhury and Sadananda Gowda and also just now Santosh Gangwar have been dropped. They have put forth their resignation as well. Who could be then be elevated? They are already names in the government. Cabinet Rejig, Hardeep Singh Puri, RK Singh, Mansukh Mandaviya, ministers who are going to be promoted. India Today has also learnt that Santosh Gangwar has just now submitted his resignation and Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank is being dropped on health grounds as well. Polumi, I want to now come back to you because you've been on ground and consistently updating us about who has arrived and who has left. But the question that everybody will want to know is, while there is Uttar Pradesh representation, that of Uttarakhand as well, this is of course a bigger message that's going on. I also want to understand from you, what are you picking up on some of those interesting names that could be given some big responsibilities?
Well, as far as interesting names are concerned, obviously we've seen some of those. What kind of responsibilities they're given, portfolios they're given, that remains to be seen. That's something which will only become clearer after the swearing-in ceremony is over, when that list of portfolio allocation is officially released. But what we know is that there are some very interesting faces who have known to be well-performing MPs who are waiting in the wings for a very, very long time for their turn, for their moment under the sun. And that seems to be happening this time round. For instance, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Meenakshi Lekhi, Bhupendra Yadav, those being elevated right now. Anurag Thakur, Cabinet Rejig, Kishan Reddy, RK Singh. These are some of the names that we've heard. But there are obviously a lot of new names. We've not seen how they have performed because they've not had an opportunity at being within government in the past. But it's going to be interesting to see how they perform, because clearly in this region, it's apparent that the Prime Minister has done away with a lot of those who he believed to have not performed.
And Polumi, quickly, I want to also understand here, we've been looking, let's say, for example, what has been happening internally, either with the Congress or the BJP, but with regard to the Cabinet Rejig, any sort of rebellion or someone who has been upset or disappointed has been fairly managed, if at all there was. You know, in a time like this, with such a massive rejig happening, it appears that the names who have been included are, of course, would be more than happy. But the ones who would be disappointed haven't really made it very clear right now as well.
No, Pooja, we of course have to wait to hear from those who of course have been dropped. At least those are reports that are coming in. We will find out officially this evening only, but there are reports of course coming in of Santosh Gangwar, Debashree Chowdhury, Sadananda Gowda Ramesh Pokhriyal, Nishank, who are being dropped from the Union Council of Ministers, and then there's a lot of rumor about some other names as well, but no official word as of yet. So it will be interesting to eventually find out as to what were the reasons specific to each of these individuals because of which, the Prime Minister and his top confidants eventually decided that they should be dropped. There are some who have genuine reasons, like Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank. We believe at least one of the reasons is his illness. Sanjay Dhotri, his deputy as well, MOS in the Ministry of Education, hadn't been keeping very well from the information that we had. So it's going to be interesting to see if it was ill health in the cases of these individuals, or was there more to it as well.
Paulomi, please stay on with me. We have some breaking news coming in. Paulomi Saha, remember, is on ground tracking all the latest. And of course, there's going to be representation from different states. And now 4 new ministers from Karnataka are likely to be inducted. And the probable names are Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Bhagwant Khubba, A. Narayan Swamy and Shobha Karanlaje. All of them for now with regard to the Minister of State. But that's the big news coming in. There could be 4 representations from the state of Karnataka. So we have about 4 probable names. Remember, these are only speculations for now, but an inside track as well. Likelihood of Rajiv Chandrasekhar, of course, already been in the government, has been associated with the government closely. Bhagwant Khubba, Narayan Swamy, Shobha Karanlaje, and my colleague getting all the details is Nagarjun Dwarkanath on the same. Nagarjun, these are important 4 names that are likely to be inducted into the reshuffle that happens. What are you picking up more about these names that are likely to be announced soon?
Most likely these 4 names are going to be taken into the cabinet. All the 4 of them have met the Prime Minister this morning, and yesterday they met Naddaji is what we are told, and they also spoke to BL Santosh, who is the organization secretary, over the phone. These 4 people are from Karnataka. Most likely they will be getting MOS rank is what we are told. Shobha Karanlaje is MP from coastal Karnataka, while Bhagwant Khubba is from Bidar, from the Lingayat background. And Rajiv Chandrasekhar comes in as a technocrat in that quota, and Narayan Swamy as Dalit from the central Karnataka part. So you have Prahlad Joshi, who's already from Bombay, Karnataka, Bhagwant Khubba from Hyderabad, Karnataka, Shobha from coastal Karnataka, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, who's from Bangalore, but in the technocrat quota. So the whole of Karnataka, there is some representation, is what they feel. And Sadananda Gowda is most likely to resign if Shobha is included, because they are from the same community. And it's likely that the senior cabinet minister will resign right now, and Shobha will be the new minister, is what we are picking up. So 4 new names who will be from Karnataka.
So, of course, 4 names coming in from Karnataka. Thank you so much, Nagarjun Dwarkanath, for all the latest. And now, big news coming in. Remember about the senior faces till now with the government. Sources now telling India Today, Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan likely to be moved out of the Health Ministry. This in the background of course, the COVID pandemic that's affected the country in the past more than a year now. Paulomi Saha with the latest on that. Paulomi, this is going to be very big news if and when officially announced that Dr. Harshvardhan, current Health Minister, may likely to be moved out of the ministry. What are you picking up on details? And Paulomi, remember, is there outside the Prime Minister's residence, a lot of heightened activity there. I will just get her back in a moment, but this could be perhaps the biggest news. India, remember, has been affected with the COVID pandemic. There has been criticism lately of the government's handling of it. Rahul Srivastav is also joining us, our National Affairs editor. Rahul, do you think that Dr. Harshvardhan likely to be moved out of the Health Ministry could be the biggest news coming in? And I want to just mention here that you did mention it earlier here, that it could be a possible situation likely coming up.
You see, Pooja, when the second surge came and people were dying on the streets, there were lungs heaving inside hospitals, and inside hospitals there was lack of oxygen, there was vaccination drive was lacking. Eventually, the Prime Minister had to step in, get his hands dirty, holding meetings for oxygen cylinders, ventilators. In fact, what is gone against Dr. Harshvardhan is perhaps not predicting the ferocity of the second surge, the lack of preparedness. Also, in terms of having a larger worldview on how to tackle a pandemic, somewhere the assessment of the government has been that Dr. Harshvardhan has not met the standards set by the Prime Minister. Now, some top sources are very emphatic. They are saying that Dr. Harshvardhan certainly may not retain the health portfolio. But yes, there are other sources also cite that the opposition is going to be on or be ballistic on the health issue, on the pandemic tackling issue, second surge in the coming session. A new minister, but then it is also a possibility that somebody credible or even a technocrat, is the Prime Minister holding a surprise that somebody credible and senior is going to be given the health portfolio charge, because the government also needs to be wary that if Dr. Harshvardhan is removed, opposition will say that the government is admitting that it made mistakes in handling the pandemic.
That's a very important point. The opposition would want to immediately jump in and criticize the government as if it's accepting that there were problems. Poulomi Saha is on the ground as well. Poulomi, if it is likely that Dr. Harshvardhan, the incumbent health minister in the country, may be moved out of the ministry, that could perhaps be the biggest news coming in from this Cabinet Rejig.
Absolutely. That is possibly one of the headlines that you would see in tomorrow's newspapers if indeed eventually we do see the minister being moved out of the health ministry. Is he being dropped altogether, or is he being moved out of the health portfolio, is what remains to be confirmed at the moment. We're still waiting for an official word from Dr. Harshvardhan's office. This was something which was being talked about, and hence we were in fact checking on this since earlier this morning, Pooja, and there was absolutely no confirmation coming in from his office about this, but now some sort of word coming in from our colleagues who cover the ministry saying that he's likely to be moved out of the ministry. So like I said, no clarity yet as to whether he'll be dropped from the Union Council of Ministers or whether he could be given a different portfolio altogether and someone else could be given charge of the health ministry. But either way, dropped or just moved out of the portfolio, a change in the Ministry of Health at the top level only adds fuel to fire as far as the opposition's criticism of the government is concerned in terms of its COVID-19 handling. And the opposition gets a moment to say, I told you so. The government has not handled the crisis, and currently...
But also, Poulomi, what I would want to ask here, that considering previous year the government attempted to project its image that it has successfully combated the COVID-19 virus, and at that point the credit appeared to have gone to Dr. Harshvardhan as the health minister, and of course we saw the peak in the second wave leading to death and devastation. Could it be, of course, the opposition's chance, if that happens, to say that in many ways while Harshvardhan is facing the bait, but it should have stopped at the top door? So do you think that is also going to be that the government will want to consider before officially announcing if Dr. Harshvardhan is out and we have a new health minister coming up?
See, Pooja, like I just said earlier, you know, Dr. Harshvardhan is going to become the fall guy as far as the opposition is concerned. So if he's moved out of the health ministry, if he's given another portfolio, or he's dropped altogether from the Union Council of Ministers, in both cases what the opposition is going to say is two things. One, that's admission of the fact that you didn't handle the COVID pandemic right. And secondly, this should have stopped at the top. It was the Prime Minister's job to have ensured that the country was kept safe and the pandemic was handled in a better way. You're making Dr. Harshvardhan a low-profile guy, the fall guy as far as this is concerned. But as far as the health ministry is concerned, Pooja, Dr. Harshvardhan's taking charge of the situation at the end of the day was criticized a lot in terms of the fact that he did not have a grip over the situation. A lot of the decisions that were being taken were afterthoughts. The Prime Minister obviously has had a hawk's eye over the situation. He was, of course, getting all the details and updates from the ministry officials. I'm talking about the Prime Minister's office and those within the Prime Minister's office and from the Health Ministry as well. He was constantly doing conferences with the Health Secretary himself himself with VK Paul of the Niti Aayog. He was constantly seeking updates from him. But at the end of the day, Dr. Harshvardhan is in charge of the ministry. He is expected to, take charge of things. If he is not done well, then clearly that is going to become.
If that is going to be an announcement coming in anytime soon, that is going to be the big news. If Dr. Harshvardhan is out of the ministry and India is also to have a new health minister while the COVID pandemic is still raging. Paulami Saha, Rahul Shasthav, please stay on with us. I'm heading into a short break. But India Today continues with its coverage and also inside track of what is expected at the Rejig today evening. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching.